Welcome to another installment of Game On Home Edition. Um, Tonight's video is actually one that I've wanted to do for quite a while, and it concerns vehicles. Now, one of the most entertaining aspects of any RPG for a lot of us is the gear that your character gets to use. Now, depending on the gaming world, that can be weapons, tech, magic items, or in the case of, contemporary and futuristic game worlds, vehicles, which is a subject that I'm particularly fond of. So I thought I would dive in and sort of talk about how to make vehicle rules both easier to manage and also more realistic. So let's dive in. And I apologize in advance for the sort of strange blue glow coming off of my computer screens while I do this video, but, anyway, let's get right into it. Most modern gaming worlds make some attempt at vehicle rules, but it's not always a huge priority with game designers, so those rules might not be terribly detailed. And even when they do go into more detail and depth, these guys are not always, vehicle experts, so the realism can sort of be hit or miss. And on top of that, vehicle technology is one of those things that evolves very quickly, right? Particularly when you're talking about sort of contemporary stuff. So even a set of rules that was pretty solid in a game published a few years ago or a few decades ago might not be up to date any longer when it comes to the sort of the technology. So what do you do if you want realistic, exciting vehicle action in your game? To cover the basics, we need to account for two things: the practical stuff and the performance stuff. Now, I should point out here that I'm mostly going to be talking about ground vehicles, cars, trucks, motorcycles, etc. Because those are the things that players are most likely to come into contact with in a contemporary gaming scenario. Now, to a greater or lesser extent, the same principles that we're talking about would apply to aircraft or boats, for example, but I'm not going to be dealing with those specifically during this. So let's start with the practical stuff. It's not nearly as exciting and fun, but it's pretty simple. We'll get it out of the way. And to make the game, the vehicle rules work well in the game and be sort of logical, it's a good idea to, kind of keep this stuff in mind. Now, when I say practical, I'm talking about vehicle capacity, how many crew and how much cargo the vehicle can carry. Those cover the most utilitarian purpose of any vehicle, to move people and things, right? So, it's a good idea to keep a grasp on those, and they tend to be a function of the size of the vehicle. So it's pretty logical, but it's just like anything else. Players will take advantage, right? Encumbrance rules. The players will carry 500 pounds worth of equipment if you let them. Vehicles are the same way. They'll load or overload a vehicle to ridiculous extremes if you let them. So don't is really what it comes down to. The other thing that's on the practical side is range. How far your vehicle can carry those people and things. Obviously enough, that's a function of fuel efficiency and fuel capacity versus sort of size and weight again. And as we'll discuss in a minute, how aggressively that vehicle is being driven, because that will definitely increase the fuel consumption and reduce the range. So again, something to keep in mind, although we won't make like hard and fast rules for that sort of stuff. Now, let's get on to the fun stuff. Performance. That's the action. That's where the action happens. So That's where we're going to spend most of our time, and that's where most of your players are going to get their most enjoyment. So, a lot of game systems often focus on top speed as the principal measure of performance. People do that too. Players. It's a mistake. That's not actually how vehicles would work, do work, particularly in a gaming scenario where you have, say, an opposed contest between two vehicles and the operators of two vehicles, or that takes place over a sequence of action or combat rounds of relatively short duration. In a scenario like that, top speed is pretty irrelevant unless you're talking about, like a jet fighter aircraft or something that can accelerate to full speed extremely quickly. It's just not going to play out in a gaming scenario where top speed is relevant. And to give you an example, like let's say you want to stage a car chase as part of a combat scene, right? Your players tear off in their vehicle with villains in hot pursuit, and you're trying to work out how successfully they escape the bad guys, or how if the bad guys catch up with them and can attack them or knock them off the road or whatever. So you need sort of a framework to make the determination of how that plays out. And in that scenario, it's important to realize that neither of them is likely to get anywhere near their vehicle's top speeds. You may ask, why not? Well, time is the short answer. And to illustrate, let's do a little math. A very simple math. And let me just insert here. That's kind of the idea behind what I'm talking about here. I'm going to talk at some length and detail about things, but I'm trying to keep the math very, very simple. There's all kinds of formulas that you can use to figure this stuff out, and I know them and I play around with them because I think they're fun, but I'm a geek, and I think that's cool. Most people think that's really boring. So what I'm trying to do is get all of that math stuff out of the equation, so to speak, and make this easy and intuitive for everybody who doesn't want to do formulas to be able to just sort of get a grasp on vehicle rules and let it flow in their game. So time. Why is that at issue here? Well, while it varies by system, a typical combat round in a game is usually 5 seconds or so. Some games it's a little shorter, 3 seconds. Some it's a little longer, 6, 8, 10 seconds. But 5 is a good sort of median number. So that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to use that as my example as I'm talking here. But why that's important? A sporty car, high performance car, like this BMW I'm going to show on the screen right now. This car can reach 60 miles an hour in about 5.5 seconds, which is pretty close to the duration of our combat round here. Close enough that we're going to work with that. It so happens that the BMW also has a top speed of around 150 miles an hour, but that's pretty irrelevant to what we're dealing with. And the reason is, though it takes that vehicle just 5.5 seconds to get to 60 miles an hour, it takes it about 40 seconds of sustained, uninterrupted, straight line acceleration to get up to 150 mile an hour top speed. 40 seconds. Now, if in the case that we're talking about here, a combat round is 5 seconds, that's 8 combat rounds just for the vehicle to get up to speed, if nothing else happens to interrupt that. Think back to the last combat scene that you had in a game that you played. Did it last 8 rounds? Maybe it did, but a lot of them don't, right? A lot of them are over by 8 rounds. So waiting 8 combat rounds to get up to speed and top speed in a vehicle, it's just not realistic. We want something that's more immediate, that maintains the drama and the action and the pace of the game. And you might think, oh, well, maybe that BMW just isn't fast enough. That's the problem. Well, okay. Take this example. This Ferrari, ultra high performance vehicle with a top speed well over 200 miles an hour. But as fast as it is, it takes that vehicle just as long to get up to its top speed because its maximum velocity is 50% higher than the BMW's. Again, 8 combat rounds. Not super action packed if you're waiting on that. So, in the interests of good pace for a game, we want something more immediate. So, during those rounds, the thing that separates vehicles in a chase, literally and figuratively, is not the maximum speed, but the rate of acceleration. And those are not the same thing. For those of you who don't remember or didn't take or never want to think about, high school physics and kinematic equations and all that kind of stuff. A vehicle that accelerates harder gains speed more quickly, irrespective of its top speed. But more important than any of that, in game terms, it covers distance more quickly. Or it gains distance more quickly, I guess is a better way to say it. And it's distance, not speed, relative distance between two vehicles in particular, that determines things like weapons range, or whether the pursuing vehicle catches up to the fleeing vehicle or lets it escape. So that's what we want to concern ourselves with. Now, like I said, if you're a car geek like me, you can do the actual math on this stuff, look up the equations. Well, here they are. Take a look. These are the equations. But probably that looks pretty boring and you don't want to do it. So I'm going to sort of work this out and give you some shorthand stuff. Easy math you can do in your head, no equations that you have to keep track of, that incorporate the ideas here, keep it accurate, but save you the grunt work. Here's how we do it. The most commonly publicized measure of vehicle acceleration is the time it takes to go from 0 to 60 miles an hour. Like I mentioned before, that BMW does it in about 5.5 seconds. But you can find that statistic for virtually every vehicle, past or present. So that's what we're going to use because it's so universal. You can find it on vehicle manufacturers' websites. They'll publicize that stuff. It'll be in car magazines. It'll be everywhere. And since we know what the length of our action sequence is, right? 5 seconds. So a little number crunching reveals that the BMW covers approximately 60 meters in 5 seconds. It's actually 62 meters, but we're rounding off because we're trying to keep the numbers simple. So 60 meters is our baseline. Everything from there is proportionate to that baseline. The Ferrari we talked about, it's wicked quick. It goes from 0 to 60 in just 2.7 seconds. Which coincidentally enough, and it is a coincidence, I just stumbled on this, I didn't plan it, is exactly half as long as it takes the BMW to do it. And what that tells us is its rate of acceleration is exactly twice the BMW's, which means it covers exactly twice the distance in the same time interval. So, in this case, 120 meters. So if the Ferrari is trying to escape from the BMW, it will have stretched the distance between the two vehicles by 60 meters for each combat round. That's a pretty significant gap. 2 or 3 rounds, if it's escaping 2 or 3 rounds, it's going to be completely out of weapons range and have effectively lost its pursuer. But this ratio, this approximations work just as well for slow vehicles. Say your PC is prepared for more of an off-roading environment, and they showed up in a rugged old Land Rover, 4x4, but the bad guys are chasing them on the street in that slick BMW. Well, the click on the internet and you'll see the Rover takes 10.2 seconds to get to 60 miles an hour, which is just a hair off of twice as slow as the Beamer. So sure enough, the ratio works again. Truck covers a tick over half the distance that the BMW does in a 5-second round, making the difference when we round off 30 meters. Okay? The Rover does 30 meters, the BMW does 60 meters, so the differential is 30 meters. So if the bad guys are chasing them with the BMW, they're going to catch them up 30 meters around. If you found a vehicle that did, 6.5 seconds to 60, well, that's about a 20% difference, right? So you just add 20% or subtract 20% to the 60 meters. So it's from 60 to 48. The math is easy enough. You can probably do it in your head. If you want to prepare ahead of time, you can make a little chart for yourself. I kind of do that kind of stuff just so I have a few different types of vehicles on a quick reference sheet. But again, if something comes up off the cuff, the math is easy enough. You should be able to do it without referring to any formulas or anything. And yeah, and it goes to the crazy extremes. A rickety old vintage school bus or a rocket-powered school bus. They will both follow the same ratios as long as you know what the 0 to 60 time is. If hopefully that gives you some idea of how to handle vehicle dynamics and chase scenes and things like that in a relatively easy to use and realistic manner. Hopefully you guys found that interesting. Full disclosure, you're not going crazy and losing time. This is in fact the following day that I'm filming this little closer. The reason being, there's a whole lot more to that video, which I think rather than just drone on any longer, I'll do in a second video if people are interested, which concerns vehicle handling, some skill test type information, combat, some thoughts on combat and weapons and things like that, which I think will all work better in a separate video, so I'm going to cut this one short right now. Okay, well, too late for short, but shorter, and just sign off for now and do the rest of that stuff in a second video. Hopefully you found this stuff interesting and useful, or at least mildly entertaining. I certainly love it, and I hope that you can use some of it in your next game in a contemporary or futuristic setting where vehicles are a part of what's going on. I also wanted to say, thanks very much for continuing to watch and support us and give us your comments and your likes and your feedback and your criticisms, although hopefully you'll be kind on that score. Even while we're doing these, home edition versions of the videos, it's great to get feedback from you guys. So until next time, when you see the second half of that video on vehicles, game on, and again, thanks for watching.